Hello, everyone. This is Peter Geovanes for CDO Magazine, and I am delighted to do this episode with Dr. Christina.
Hi, Peter.
So, another kind of term of art that I've been hearing more and more often is KM or knowledge management. And as we were talking, as kind of setting up for this interview too, we talked about the need to kind of scale knowledge or learning within organizations as part of your charter or mantra. Can you comment on that for us as well?
Yeah, and I think it kind of helps maybe to put a little bit of context around that. If we think about like how we approach data initiatives, we go use case by use case, and so it's almost like you form a Scrum team or a Tiger team around the issue, and then you try to get the outcome that you're after. Hopefully, you're working with the right people. Very often, you're not you're not working with the right people because you haven't really done any of that. And then the next time that you want to do a piece of work, you have to find new people, reteach those people, again, reform these things. And so it ends up being this very choppy cadence of delivery because you never have the foundational things in place. Our perspective is that like organizations have to prepare for that. Like, when we talk about things like literacy, we need to be able to connect people to the knowledge that they need in order for them to be able to perform the work. So they should understand what's expected by the organization. They should understand what processes are changing in order for them to be able to execute correctly. They should understand the technology that they're using and how they're expected to use it. They should understand how to prioritize the work, right? Like what is most important, that's going to deliver the highest level value to the organization because this is what we want to deliver. So we're not wasting time kind of dealing with data that is just less and less important. And all of those things really start to come together when you start to think about like, well, how do we make sure that people are well positioned to do this? It's repeatable. We don't have vulnerability as an organization from things like mobility, people changing roles, or layoffs, people leaving roles, and then having gaps in like who is supposed to be working on these things. How do we make sure they know what they need to know? They can repeat it, and we won't have breaks in our ability to be able to do this as a discipline. If you take it even a step further, can you imagine if any other department operated that way? Your HR basically like breaking down every so often because people don't understand like what their role is in managing your benefits or managing, right? You really have to build with the intention to reduce that risk to your organization, and that's where knowledge management comes in, right? It's really about capturing that knowledge across your organization and making it available so that anybody can pick it up, anybody can get upskilled like that. Being able to connect your people to people who have done it before, where they can learn from, that can be one-on-one, but it can also be in groups in the formation of things like communities of practice, or communities of expertise in order for people to learn about like, well, they had this issue, they used data to solve the problem, this is how they went through it, and so on and so forth. Just that basic sharing that can occur in an informal group like that, and you've put the right mechanisms to enable people to be able to participate in that, can accelerate and advance your organization astronomically, because now you don't even have to follow like only single use cases. You're now giving your organization the opportunity to have lots of areas that can start to activate and start to do minimum things, that advance like the maturity of your organization. And so, to me, that knowledge management is really about like connect the people to the people, connect the people to the process, connect the people to the technology. But at every point of that connection, it's important that the people are engaged, and that's how you get success.
So I'm curious, with your company, Data Cafe, how do clients kind of approach you? Is it the process side? Is it the people side? Is it the technology side? Or maybe even you kind of alluded to risk management. Where do they kind of start with you on this journey?
A lot of the time, it's different places. For organizations that are starting, a lot of it is about C-suite education. Like, what do you have that we can provide to you that can help explain some of these concepts? Like, why do we govern? How do we set it up? Should we be federated and so on? And like, how do we, attain some of that just high level education so that not only do the C-suite understand what it is that we're trying to do with data, but they understand their role in it, and that evangelization. Sometimes they're already practicing, but they want to scale, right? So they have a stewardship body that's been working really, really well. but they don't know how to leverage what that stewardship body knows to have other stewardship bodies emerge across the organization, right? And sometimes they just don't have a team like ours. A lot of data teams are mostly technical skilled people that really aren't thinking about change management strategy across the organization. They're not really thinking about how do we formalize decision rights in the organization across our data. How do we identify who's on point so that ultimately we can use some of this knowledge that we're picking up to start to automate things even. Create workflows for work management around the things that we're trying to accomplish in our data initiatives. And so being able to kind of meet the organization where they are and figure out like where is it breaking down with their people. Where is there opportunity for like alignment between departments? Oh, okay, you guys have a way that you think about like the importance of data. Is it aligned to your organization's risk framework? We can help facilitate and help enable some of that thought. How do you talk to your HR organization so that you get the things that you need to be able to be an enabler for you across all of your data initiatives? What are the things I should care about? And it could even just be like formation of the structure. Lots of people read the literature and it says, well, you need to have an enterprise data council. You need to have this and that in place, and nobody tells you how to do it. We can help you with that. We can tell you
Yeah.
how.
I love that. And, looking at the readership of Chief Data Officer magazine, I think it's even expanded, right? It's data and analytics. And I would also argue now we're seeing the rise of the Chief AI Officer. Is
Mhm.
that something that you and your company, Data Cafe, offer, is to partner with these C-level executives and kind of be an extension of them and help them along this journey?
Absolutely. And I think that we end up, being a very helpful voice. I think, a lot of people in this role will tell you that they enter it and the organizational expectation and the actual like place where their organization is not married well. And so it's almost like you're asking the impossible. And when you fail to deliver, these roles are disappearing or people are getting let go within 3 years and being replaced and so on and so forth. And yet, if we think about like any other department in a company, we understand that there is a way that things done. There is an order to things. There is a first, second, and a third. It's the same in data. You can't be AI if you don't have quality. And so being able to help
Some of these
manage.
foundational steps.
That's right. Being able to help manage expectations and be able to talk about it with a view of, we see this in other places. We've seen this in organizations that are much, much more mature, and seen how they've kind of gone about it. We've seen it in organizations that are starting. This is what has to be. This is the cornerstone that needs to be in place. And this is how you get there. And if you want it to be faster, this is how you work with your chief AI person to give them the support that they need in order to do those things. Because one of the things that I always find that's beyond me is you know it can be hard to get a person to participate at all if just their direct line manager doesn't want them to, right? Um, and roll that up a few steps from their direct line manager all the way to their C-suite, who also doesn't feel like they have a role. Now you have like a whole organization that's basically built on the idea that like we don't really have to do anything. We just ask the data team to deliver this. Um, and
So
it's a hard.
is that distrust, or is that sometimes just maybe, I hate to use this word, is it just maybe underappreciation or maybe even ignorance of what's happening?
I think it's the lack of understanding. Like we say it's a team sport, but I think people think the team sport is between the data people.
I
Uh,
see.
and it's and it's not. It's between the data people and everybody else, right? And so, really getting to that place, for a department to like understand and say that, okay, yes, I have this person who is a chief AI officer in place, but none of the people that they need to work with report to them. How are they going to get that person activated to, do something with them and prioritize the work if there are no mechanisms in the organizations to enable that, whether that's through policies, whether that's through training and mandatory requirement training, whether that's because of performance evaluation and mandating, that be evaluated as part of your
Perhaps
performance.
aligning strategic objectives,
Right,
right?
like
Kind of working
whether
together for collaboration.
and like what they want achieved, right? Like that should be a determiner of like what you're activating around. And those things, when they don't happen, you put the chief AI officer in a bad spot because they either have to deliver without the expertise that they need, and it's 50-50 whether it works, right? Or, they're just kind of stumped and in a constant sort of back and forth trying to convince people to give time, which makes them slow, and not as agile, in trying to get it right. And so, to me, I really do think that, we're living in a really interesting time. Like adoption of AI outside of a corporation is amazing, right? Like who is not? Our children are doing amazing things with with AI, and our education system is trying to catch up with how to catch them when they're, when they're doing
For sure.
things with AI. But it's not adopted as well inside the corporation, and a lot of that is just because of like just a lack of clear alignment around what it is that organizations want to do with data, how willing they are to support it, because it requires work. It's not just going to magically come together. It's not about buying a fancy tool and it's solving the problems. The fundamental issues that make you unable to use your data in Excel will persist in any technology that you bring, right? And so that's not the problem. It doesn't get solved by buying more and more technology and then giving a person an impossible task. It's really about shifting the culture of your organization to say, we are data driven. We make decisions using our data. We gain our competitive advantage using data. We are we are increasing our risk posture and our ability to be defensible in an audit because we know how to manage our data correctly. And that is everybody's job. Everybody should
Can
have
I ask you
some
about that? Because that's
understanding.
a really interesting point. Does that have to come from the board? Does it have to come from the CEO? Does it have to come from the general counsel? Or really, to your point, it's that combination. All three need to be speaking off
Well,
the same sheet of music.
well, all of the above. Because
Okay,
once one of those is out of step, then again, like there's that misalignment between what is expected and what is actually like reasonably achievable. It really you have to have buy-in all the way through because, like I said, you're going to encounter challenges. It's such a big shift. I think people don't have a strong appreciation for how much changes as you shift towards becoming data driven. You're affecting people's jobs, what they've been doing, you know, for what, 15 plus years. They've been doing the role this way. And then now suddenly, oh, I'm an expert in the data and I should be a steward. And you've changed their role. You've changed the processes that they've gotten used to doing. You've changed the technology under them of what they're supposed to be doing. And, add to that, like a lot of the fuel from even what they hear outside of the organization about job replacement and so on. Like you're working with a group of very fearful people who may not even feel it's in their best interest to participate and help you advance in data. And so if it's not built into the fabric of the organization as an expectation, how do you expect it to ever really, really become that way? How do you expect to become data driven? And some of it, like I said, like, people only know what they know. If you aren't telling them the narrative, they're making the narrative in their mind. So if my fear is job replacement and yet my job is not even in danger, right? In fact, what you're doing is you're going to do something that will free up time and enable me to, do higher level things, which will allow me to be promoted. That's not the story that's being told because nobody inside the organizations is educating people to really understand, like, why do we need to do this? We're just following the hype
great
cycle.
point.
Everybody
Right.
else is going to go away, right?
Thank you for your time today. Thank you for your insights. I wish you and your partner and Data Cafe all the best. And
Thank
thank
you.
you from CDO Magazine.
Thank you so much. It was fun chatting with you, Peter.